Is Yu-Gi-Oh! Expensive? The answer is yes, pretty much. And for those who say that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not expensive, we'll dive into that later. But more people will say that it is expensive rather than it isn't. And it's especially expensive if you want to be a competitive player because of the amount of money that it costs to just travel and go to events and get hotels and constantly keep up with the best decks and the best techs throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's time. So let's dive into like these little points here and there and see where we ultimately end up. No, Yu-Gi-Oh's not expensive. One thing you can do to maintain costs is to buy a box, or 2, or 3, or 4, or a case. And then with the cards that you pull from the boxes, keep the ones that you need and sell the prize cards. It's a strategy that vendors use because that's what makes them money. And then they can sponsor their friends and whatnot. It's not bad, but you're still paying Konami for these. See, the price that makes everything expensive is not the primary market where you buy the boxes. It's the secondary market, the price that we, the players, give to cards. And, well, how much is cardboard worth, really? And that's why, again, going from saying, like, it's not expensive, buy a box and keep what you pull that you want and just sell what you don't to make a profit. Yeah, you can make a profit, but to what end? This is a good way to keep costs down, but it's a gamble to buy a box. And a lot of players will agree that if you want to play just a competitive deck, the best thing to do is to buy singles, not boxes. If you want to think more economically, maybe buying a box is for you. Who knows? Not this guy. That's for you to decide. I'm just saying, I prefer to buy singles myself because I'm kind of a nerd like that. But hey, maybe you're the kind of person who wants to buy a box and do what you like with it. One other thing you can do as a Yu-Gi-Oh player to keep costs way down is to pick up cards that people sleep on. Ha! Get it? That's why the bed's here. So there are these things called sleeper cards within Yu-Gi-Oh sets, and they're essentially cards that are good in the future, but not right now. There have been a few in the past, a lot from like the Star Strike Duelist set, the one with like Vanity's Emptiness and goodness, what is it? Draw and Lockbird and things like that. Like a lot of good stuff came out of that set, but much, much later. And then those prices went up. If you can have the foresight for that, then you'll be swimming in money when those cards go up to the moon. Or if you just want to guess at what it's going to be, you could end up like Farther with like a mountain of Warrock Mountains, and we all know how good that deck was. So sleeper cards are a good way to be able to sort of get extra money. However, it's pretty much a gamble. One of the cards that I thought would be a sleeper card was like Skill Successor. I think that's what it was called. I'll put it up what I really mean, but I thought this card was going to be really good in the future. Have you heard of this card? Because I don't think you might. I don't think you have, because it was never really played. So I had a playset waiting to go and never did anything. But yeah, a lot of the ways to keep money low on Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like trade with people, or like just be good at pulling cards and investing. And that's sort of it. Now let's go into why we believe Yu-Gi-Oh! Is expensive. One of the reasons we find Yu-Gi-Oh! Expensive is all of the things that we need to have to just be able to play the game. The price of cards on the secondary market is determined by the players based on how shiny and how much foil is in the card, how hard it is to obtain the card, and how much people want it, how good it's going to be, and how relevant it is within the metagame. If it is all of these things on a high degree, that being like secret rare, meta-relevant card that can fit into every deck. These three factors alone mean that it's going to be quite high. I mean, check out the price of like SP Little Knight. That's, well, a secret rare that's generic to make and also very good and fits into every single deck out there right now. Which is why that's an expensive card. Yay! Quarter century rares are harder to pull, which is why those, doesn't really matter which ones they are way more expensive than any other rarity. Yes, lovely. Except, should we as players actually just say this is acceptable? We can draw the idea that these are acceptable prices based off of other games. However, those are other games with their own secondary markets and things. We shouldn't really draw the conclusion of like, but that game is expensive, so we can be expensive. Because no, don't be like that. Like, we could band together and be like, no, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is too expensive. Let's lower the prices again. Because I believe we did that once before, we as in like duelists. I think like, interesting. I think that like in Dragon Ruler format, cards were so expensive and people just got so fed up with it that we agreed, let's lower the prices. And cards became much less expensive after that for a while. But now it seems like cards are going higher and higher again. There was a time where it was like, this is a $120 pre-release value card. Draco Sack. No card should ever really be worth that much money, unless it's like a prize card. Prize cards are a different luxury item altogether, so let's just deal with that in a different way. But for like cards that you play and can obtain through boxes, they shouldn't really be too expensive. What should the maximum price be? Well, what's a fair price for anyone to really be able to get into it? Because ultimately, the game we know and love, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is meant to be a children's card game. And what kind of child can pay that much for an SP Little Knight or a Bonfire? Oh, my parents would never. How about yours? After cards, one other thing that we need to think about is travel to events. Some of us take like cars and motorbikes, and that's fantastic. You're saving so much money because you don't need to buy a train. A train. Or take public transport of any kind. However, even if you do take like a car or a motorbike, you still need to pay for like petrol or gas or whatever you want to call it. Free internet. So there are always expenses with that sort of thing. And there are other things that you need just to like play as well, like a play mat or card sleeves. And card sleeves are the worst investment ever because you pay money for them and then they just get ruined and then they're thrown away, never to be used or seen of again. And here's the funniest part. Most like competitive duelists that I've met and know throughout my time being a competitive duelist in the UK, we use different sleeves for different events. There's never been like 2 events where we use the same sleeves because we want like no chance of being like something like, look, it's a marked sleeve. Oh, we just don't want that because it's serious business and it's a pain. Ugh. Anyway. So it's sleeves, it's the travel, it's the playmat. The deck box is not too important. You could use anything as a deck box. I mean, you could use a McDonald's cat bag, you could use a cardboard box, you could use your grandmother's shoe. It doesn't matter as long as you have the cards. And you can bring them to the table, you know? Like, it doesn't really matter what you put them in as long as they are there. Yay! But all of these are small expenses, except maybe travel to like big events. Like if you go to a YCS, like the plane tickets might be a bit much. And hotels, if you're going to YCSs as well, because they're 2-day events. They're not just one day where you just go, play, and come back. Yay! So these we will call like external costs, and it's just these will be to like play in any sort of like tournament anywhere, unless it's strictly online. Then you can just play in the comfort of your home, which Master Duel, yeah, we would really like to be more a part of. Or remote duels. Do we still have remote duels? I actually don't know. Give me answers for remote duels in the comments below. Do we still have those? Anyway, let's wrap this up and go back to location 1 for final thoughts. Yes, final thoughts. My final thoughts on this are that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is an expensive card game because of the secondary market. It's cheap if you are a god at opening what you need. And you go and you buy like a box. And you pull exactly what you need from it, and you're like, yes, I did it. I've got the deck. Raw. Congratulations, you're a wizard, Harry. But if you're like me, you're not a god at opening stuff, and you need to pray to the crab and the, the ancient warrior dude. It's harder, and it costs more because the secondary market is where the money is being made in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Instead of the primary market being what Konami sells us. But hey, that's just it. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a pay-to-play sort of game in the aspect that you do need to pay to be able to play it. There are online things like Master Duel where you could legitimately not pay a single penny. Same for Duel Links. And that's like the alternatives to paying. You can be free to play on those, and that's great. I mean, you can also go into like Dueling Book or like YGO Omega or Death Row or Dueling Nexus or any of like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Sims. But they will not progress you in tournaments because you can't be like, you can't take like a laptop to a tournament and be like, oh, this is my deck, I'll play in solo mode. It would be hilarious if you could, but you can't, so yeah. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, if players could unite to make the price of cards come lower, that'd be great. Vendors won't like it, but hey, people will buy more cards, I think, if they're priced better for us. I mean, we could probably sit down and be like, how much is cardboard worth, and so on and so on. Or just accept proxies at certain tournaments. That'd be really cool. I know that there's a really good video about proxies out now that you should watch. I will link it down below because I do think that Caleb did a fantastic job on it, and it was very fun to watch because he's very good at making stuff, unlike me. I'm just okay. Anyway, yes. Proxy events would be great for the game. Cheaper cards would be great for the game. But one point that's been on my mind for all of this, and I'm just going to say it here at the end, Yu-Gi-Oh! As a luxury thing, I do believe that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like having Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards is a luxury item in this aspect that you don't need them, you just kind of have them because you want them. And that's luxury, but not a luxurious item in the sense that it's like an expensive rare find in the world where it's actually worth as much money as like you could put into it sometimes. I mean, let's put it like this. An SP Little Knight, let's say like $100 or something, shouldn't be that much. That's too much for it, I would say. But hey, that's just me. But like a giant hand, like a prize card that's actually good and was used. Like giant hand at one point was like 300 pounds. I know, dollars to pounds. Oof. But that would be a luxurious item because it is more of a value for the card. I think it's more value for the card. It's better priced and it's harder to come by. I mean, giant hand was probably one of the more common prize cards at the time, but hey, whatever. So prize cards, I think, are more luxurious items, whereas like cards you can get in boxes are more cards. They're not so much like luxurious as they are luxury, being that you don't need these, but they're good to have. But they may not be like worth as much as like they're being sold for. I don't think I'm wording this well, but hey, hopefully you get what I mean. Anyway, yeah. See you in the next one.